I'm here with Kelly Purkey, and Kelly is going to show us a really cool technique, right, for embossing and a resist and all sorts of stuff. How do we get started?
Right. Well, misting is really hot right now, and so we are going to do a resist technique using heat embossing with a stamp pad and then some misting. So first things first, you're going to take your pattern paper.
Okay, and now what kind of pattern papers? I know you pulled these two out as examples that worked really well, but we have a whole bunch of paper here, and I thought you could talk us through what works well and what doesn't for this technique.
The best thing, because you really want the stamps to be the focus, is to pick patterns that have a more subtle look to them. Like this one is great because there is that linen pattern on there, but it's not overpowering. Something like this one, it's just too busy already. You're not going to be able to see the stamped image onto this paper. Another great example, I pulled out two more. These are perfect because there's a lot of color that you'll be able to see through once you get the stamped image on there. And then this one also, even though it's a tone on tone, there's a really pretty pattern that's going to peek below your stamp. I wanted to show you. Now this is an example of one that's not going to work well just because there's already some texture already on there. When you go to stamp it, it's not going to pick up the embossing powder in the stamped image real well. It's kind of going to just be a globby image.
Those are great tips. So what do we do now that we've picked our pattern paper, and I know we have a couple here that are ready for you?
Yes, so the ink pad you want to use is going to be an embossing pad. That means it's clear but really, really sticky. So when we go to put the embossing powder on top, it'll stick to the ink pad.
Great.
So I'll let you go ahead and stamp one. This is a Yum
Thank
stamp.
you. You know that you and I also love to go and eat great food.
We do. We've had some great meals together.
It's true. Do I stamp it once? Do I stamp it multiple times?
Stamp it a couple times.
Okay.
That way it'll give a really cool pattern on this subtle pattern.
I'm going to go ahead, and I like to stamp off the edge always.
Perfect. I do too. I'm going to stamp one as well.
Okay. We can share the Yum love.
We do share the Yum love.
It's true, it's true. So now one of the things that's so interesting, I think, about this clear on clear stamping is you can't actually see it, and you could actually leave it like this, but we're not going to, and it has this long open wet time, which is why I can have stamped mine quite a while ago, and you stamp yours now, and it'll still work.
Exactly. So it's going to be sticky enough that when I pour on the powder, and this is clear embossing powder. You want to make sure with this technique that it's clear, because if it has a color, even if it's white, you're not going to see the pattern paper below. And that really is the key to this technique, is to seal off what we've stamped with the embossing powder.
That's really cool, and I'm gonna do this for you. And obviously, embossing powder is essentially little particles of plastic, and as I heat it, what's gonna happen is those little particles are gonna sort of melt back together again, which is very cool. And there you can see it. It went all shiny, and it's melting, and there it's done. So I'm actually gonna speed along, and we're gonna say we already have some that have already been embossed, and I will clean this up for you.
Perfect. I've got a couple here that have already been embossed, and you can see where that stamped image. This one I stamped a little fish on there. This one has that seal. Here's the yes please stamped on there. So you can see that it, the stamped image is there, but it's just in a shiny,
very
clear.
subtle.
Yes, exactly.
So how are we going to take it from subtle to blang?
That's where the misting part comes in. And I know people are kind of scared of mist. They're not really sure what to do with them, how to add the mist to the paper. And this is a cool technique where you just need a little hint of mist. You don't want to get too crazy. So I'm going to take the mist, and we're going to spray over top of where we've
So it's interesting, you're using yellow on top of yellow. It's a real tone-on-tone look.
I am a fan of tone-on-tone just because I think it gives it a really cool contrast. And I only did about 3 squirts onto that paper, so you're not having to use a ton of mist.
And look how quickly it sinks right into that paper. I love how the paper just absorbs the mist, and it's not like you have a lot of wet sitting on top.
Exactly. This paper is great. It really picks up the mist well, and it brings out the vibrant colors that you're spraying on there. So once it dries just a bit, I'm going to take a piece of paper, a paper towel, actually, you can use Kleenex, and just wipe away where we've stamped.
Oh, that's awesome. It comes away from the embossed area right away.
Exactly. So we've sealed off that pattern paper below the stamped image.
After you've done that, you can do obviously a tone on tone. You can also do a contrast, a lot of different variations.
Exactly. We can even spray another color on here if you wanted to have an ombre effect or more of a contrast.
That's really neat. And then again, just rub away really easily and see what works for you. And I know that what you've done here on your finished layout is you've taken a bunch of these cards and you've put them onto textured cardstock, right?
Exactly, yes.
And here, so you've layered a bunch of them, and can you talk us a little bit through the design? Because I noticed you've used mostly monochromatic with little pops of sort of teal.
Yes, I am a big fan of bright colors in my scrapbook pages. This was a pink, this was this pink pattern when we started, and we added the mist to really match the cardstock.
This was so great, Kelly. Thank you so much. And we'll be right back.